Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to our podcast on Irish drama. My name is Hope.
And I'm Anton, and today we'll be discussing Translations, a play written by Irish playwright Brian Friel in 1980. Where can we begin with the discussion of this podcast? Oh, perhaps maybe you can look at some of the themes that can be found in this play.
Right, well, the play's themes revolve around these three central ideas. We have language, identity, and the power of translation, which we can further explore later on the podcast. Although the play was written in the 20th century, it is set in rural Ireland in 1833. In the beginning, it seems to be a story simply about language and translation. However, as we read further, we would be proven wrong and realize it's really about identity, power, and cultural exchange.
Well, indeed, I guess like when we look at the plays, that it lies on these central ideas that influence the plot one way or another. But I guess to further analyze the play from different angles, I think we can start with looking at the setting. And as you can see, the play takes place in a hedge school in County Donegal, which can be found in Ireland's Ulster region. Ulster is basically today known as Northern Ireland, but not all of Ulster is part of this country, as there are still some parts that belong to the Republic of Ireland. Furthermore, I mean, this is definitely significant because of how this was during the British occupation. The play shows British soldiers arriving in County Donegal to map out the area and translate Irish places into English. Well, this might seem like a simple administrative task. The play shows that changing names can have deeper consequences and implications to culture and identity. Speaking of Irish identity, maybe we can look at the author who is one of himself.
Yes, sure. Actually, he's just not a regular author. He is a cultural icon. In Ireland, he has the title of the father of Irish literature. We have Brian Field, and he's one of Ireland's greatest modern playwrights. His work frequently explores memory, language, identity, and of course, the relationship between Ireland's past and the present. But in translations, he examines how language can shape the way people see themselves and their culture.
Definitely. I guess we can also say that one of the most interesting themes in this play would be the standardization of language. Essentially, the British surveyors are naming Irish places into English so that maps will follow a single standard. Owen helps with this process by translating the Irish names.
Right. Owen seems comfortable, right, with that project. He even tells others that they are simply standardizing names and making them easier to use. However, the readers gradually see that something important is being lost. Place names are not just labels, they might contain history, stories, and of course, cultural memory.
Exactly. Well, I mean, personally, I would think that is it would definitely make it easier for even other people, even people that are not Irish, to change the name to a standardized language. However, when a place name changes, people may eventually forget the meaning behind the original name and significance to the ones who are originally from that place. And so this process appears practical, but it also reflects who has the power to decide what becomes official and what gets left behind in memory.
Right. The power is in the imperialist, right? Changing the names
Imperialist,
of
yeah, we can say that.
the names in the Philippines. There's a lot of streets, a lot of cities that has been changed when the Spaniards came to the country. So they're not able to use the language that they used back then. So this theme reminds me of like modern discussions about language around the world. Like for example, in Taiwan, many people wants to speak English with what is considered native or the standard American or British accent, but while learning standards form of English can be very useful for communication, we sometimes forget that there's variety in language and accents are also part of that identity.
You know what? I'd say that's a great connection because the play also encourages us to question whether a standard language is truly neutral. often the language that becomes the standard is connected to political, cultural, or economic power. I mean, if we're gonna look back home again, like in the Philippines, we even have street names of American presidents, like
R-
how Washington, George Washington, Willard Howard Taft, and so on. We have these names that are like not only just Spanish, but are also American because we were colonized by two of these countries. But
right.
yeah, I mean, what else stood out to you in this play in terms of themes?
Yes, another theme that stood out to me is the relationship between language and belonging, your sense of uh, belonging to your country. So we have the character Yoland becomes fascinated with Ireland and wants to learn more about Irish culture. So he's showing patriotism, nationality, a sense of nationality. He generally admires the people and the landscape.
I would definitely see this too, but of course, despite his good intentions, he never fully belongs. One of the ironies I would say in the play is that he doesn't know Owen's real Irish name while trying to learn the language and the culture. This suggests that language learning alone may not be enough to fully understand another community.
Right. I mean, we have like a saying, language is a bridge, right, between people. But the play
Right,
shows the
yeah.
culture is much more complex. It's more than that, more than the vocabulary, the grammar. There are also traditions. There are also historical experiences, values, and even jokes or humor that may be
Or
very
customs,
difficult.
yeah.
Yes, like taboos, right? That may be
hmm
difficult for foreigners or for other people to understand or to translate.
Yeah, and we can see this in the relationship between Yolan and Marie. They share a powerful emotional connection, even though they do not speak the same language fluently. Their famous scene demonstrates that human feelings can also sometimes cross language barriers.
Yes, the play also leaves us wondering whether this misunderstanding, this language barrier, might eventually appear. So, attraction and emotion can overcome these linguistic differences for a moment, but in the long term, after a while, understanding requires much more than emotions or our affection.
Oh yeah, and of course, like another character who highlights this tension is Manus. Unlike Owen, Manus is skeptical of the English presence and often refuses to accommodate them. His actions remind us that language is tied to historical power relationships.
Yes, the point feels very relevant today. Like many countries, people switch to English when speaking to foreigners. I mean, it's a universal language, which can also be an act of hospitality. Hospitality. It can also create solutions where visitors never need to engage deeply with the local language or culture.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, in a way that is another form of translation. The local community constantly adapts itself while parts of its culture remain hidden beneath the surface. What's interesting is that translation isn't always presented negatively. While translation focuses on the loss and power struggles that can come along with translation, it can also help cultures connect with one another.
Right there, we have like a great example.
Yeah,
Just this year,
from Taiwan, I think.
right. Taiwanese writer Yang Shuangzi, and translator Lin King, they won the International Booker Prize for Taiwan Travelogue. This is uh, like a guide for Taiwan travel. This award recognized not only the novel itself, but also the role of translation in bringing Taiwanese literature to readers around the world. This small country, but we need to introduce them around the world. I think that's an important contrast to the play. In translations, translation is connected to colonial power and the replacement of local names. But in this case, the translation helps share Taiwanese culture with an international audience. So instead of erasing their identity, it helped it even preserve and spread it and promote it more to other countries, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that this example reminds us of translation itself not being necessarily good or bad. What matters is who controls the process, whose voices are being represented, and whether translation encourages understanding rather than domination. If it's meant to if translation is meant to bring people together, then yeah, that is a good thing. But if it was used to widen the gaps
Hmm.
or create misunderstanding or stigma or create divide amongst people, then that's when it's wrong, and um that's where we can look at the I guess the dominant language and question whether or not other languages or even other identities are being affected by it. And of course, like with that said, speaking of Taiwan, I guess the country has also been through a dark past when it comes to the domination of language, particularly during the Kuomintang martial law era. In this era, punishments were imposed for speaking local Taiwanese languages such as Hakka, Hokkien, and other indigenous
Hmm.
languages as an effort. Actually, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but it was an the people speaking these languages were punished as an effort
Right.
by the government to unify the country with Mandarin. Essentially, right now, of course, it has its pros and cons. Because considering that Taiwanese people now mostly use Mandarin as an official language to speak to each other. While, of course, on the other hand, there are now much lesser people in this generation that speak their
Mhm.
local Taiwanese languages, which is similar to how Ireland lost their language to English.
Right. The pros and cons, like there's always two sides, right? One is to unify a country, but at the same time dividing the different groups, like as you said, the indigenous people. So this play encourages us to think about these questions. Even today, translation remains a powerful tool that can bridge cultures or reshape them in so many ways. One good thing about this play is it does not really portray the English characters as villain, nor does it present Irish culture as something perfect, but instead it reveals the reality, the truth about the situation of this colonizations or imperialism.
Yeah, and in this reality, I mean, it definitely questions a lot of how languages work and how we interact with each other. And asking these important questions, can translation ever be completely accurate? Can people truly understand another culture? And of course, how can we preserve our identity while engaging with the wider world, especially in a time where globalization is much more rapid. Like the progress we made in this world are much more rapid than ever. We can see that even though translations is nearly set 2 centuries ago, these questions remain relevant today. And of course, in a globalized world, people interact across languages and cultures every day. The play also reminds us that communication involves more than simply converting words from one language into another.
Right. Speaking of like a globalized world where everybody's now learning a new language, right? I'm learning Chinese.
Yeah, I mean,
Some
of course,
people,
we can be multilingual, and that's a benefit for
right.
many.
Right? Like some people learn Korean. So language carries a unique way of seeing the world. There's like a popular Chinese proverb to learn a language is like a window to see the world at. So preserving this linguistic diversity means also preserving the different perspectives that each race, each nationality have, and also the histories behind it.
Yeah, and of course, right now we have translations. It's a very beautiful play that is not just about language. I would say that it is a play about memory, identity, and the challenges of simply just understanding one another, which is something that's very human. And through characters like Owen, Manus, Yoland, and Mary, the author shows us that the translation is never simply about words, but it is also about how it was also about people and how they
Right.
interact with each other.
True. So it really is about the language of the people, right? So whether we look
Yeah,
at 19th century Ireland or modern Taiwan or the past or the Philippines or any other parts and countries in the world, these themes raised by the play still continue to matter. So thank you for listening to this discussion of translation. So I hope you read it by Brian Friel.
and we hope you enjoy this podcast and find new ways to think about language and culture.
So see you next time. Goodbye.
See you next time. Thank you, everyone.